Hey everybody, this is a stream, and it's been quite a while since I saw you. 2 weeks, is that right, Lawrence?
Yes, I think so, because I was out of state.
Yeah, so here we are, most recent stream, and the question of the day is this working? Is the stream a thing to behold, or should I just can it? So before we get into that, I do want to tell those of you who are new to our stream that this is a virtual sewing circle and everyone is welcome here. We are non-judgmental and we like to make friends in the comments section. So make sure that you are introducing yourself in the comments section, saying hello to your neighbors who are viewing this as well, and chatting with me and with everybody who is viewing this about your own projects, or don't. It's completely up to you. Your call. Nevertheless, I would like to talk to you a little bit about my projects. But before I do that, Lawrence, of course, is at the helm. He is moderating today. So make sure, make sure that you are all kind to each other. Feel free to ask any questions. Hopefully we'll get to all of them. And I am going to try to come back and forth between what I've got planned for you this evening and what you lovely people are saying to me as well. But let's just get into it. So yeah, stream. This was an experiment, wasn't it? I told you in the first one that I wanted a virtual space where lots of different people could come together and do really cool things. And I feel like I have mostly been successful at that. And I'm going to explain to you how I've been so successful at our streams so far. Not necessarily in terms of this, because, I mean, let's be real. This is not an ideal setting for this kind of a project. But that said, what I have done is I have made friends with some of you fine folks in the comments, and I'm going to share one very special person's project with all of you today as well. I have made more things in the last 6 weeks than I think I have in my entire adult life. I'm not even exaggerating there. So let's get into it, right? You've been waiting very patiently, some of you, to see the finished products. And let's be real here. Not everything is ever finished when you're making something yourself. You always have something you want to add or things that you want to do to stuff. But let's start with this. So my first project on SewStream was the chemise or the chemise. And you can see it right here in all of its glory. This is completely hand sewn. So everything that you see here, from the collar all the way down, even the seams and the hem, are completely hand sewn. And I am really very pleased with this. I think that this, out of all the things that I'm going to share with you, this is probably the thing that maybe gave me the most trouble at the beginning. But once I got into it, I felt the most proud of, maybe just because it's all hand sewn and I hadn't done anything like this in quite a few years. So here is the chemise. And you can see it's quite flowy. It has very long arms. And like I said, a project is never really done. So at some stage in the future, I would actually really like to cuff these arms, which would be completely period appropriate, but we're going to do that later. So chemise, done.
Speaking of arms, look at our sofa. Isn't that beautiful? That's the cat's doing.
Yes.
Ignore that.
Please do. And thank you, Lawrence, for pointing it out as well.
Absolutely.
We also have the green dress, the one that you guys ask about every single stream. Here it is. And I'm not wearing it because my hope is that once we get a new camera that actually functions properly, I might actually make a video. We'll see. I don't know.
She will. That's not just a hint. I'm going to make her do it.
But I have, a 16th century gown that I can wear whenever I want to. And I made it myself. And I just love that because, as I told you in a previous stream, this is, I don't know, like a dream come true, literally. It is a dream to have made a period costume for myself without it being on anybody else's body for my entire life as a costumer. So this has been a joy to make, and I'm really, really glad that it's done. Except it's not done, of course, ever. So what I'm going to do, I think, when I make my next one is, yes, I'm going to make a next one, by the way, is I think I'm going to remove the darts, because I thought at the time when I changed the pattern that the darts would make sense for my body, which they did, but they don't look very period accurate. So I'm going to have to play with that, because my bust to waist ratio is very strange. So we'll see how that goes. If you have any ideas on how to fix that for somebody like me that has a really weird hourglass shape, please let me know in the comments. I would love that. Along with that, of course, nothing is ever finished completely, but while I was doing more research, I came across this wonderful link for a piece that is like a 16th century apron. And so I've started on that apron. It's not done yet, but it's being completely hand sewn. And you can see now that I've gotten a lot more of it done, just how minute the details here are, where I'm hand stitching all the little pieces. And then I'm cutting out all of the little circles around the pieces. So this is by no means finished yet. And I'm going to have a few more panels on either side as well, just to like make it a little bit fuller. But yeah, working on that apron. And again, that is something that I never would have even thought to do on my own. And I think I probably would have been too intimidated to do it maybe in the past before SewStream. So thank you very much for encouraging me to do these things. Moving on, before actually I get into the rest of it, I want to talk a little bit about, well, one of your projects. So let's turn to, first off, say hello to everyone. So Lawrence, who have we got watching tonight? What have they had to say so far?
We've got plenty of people who are online right now. I don't know why I did that voice. So let's see. We'll just assume you've all said hi. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. And the questions are, well, firstly, I do want to point this one out, because Jeffrey Martin Paul US says, in light of his last video, mine, I want to point out that there are lots of rectangles on the wall. That's, if you haven't seen my video, that is a reference. But in all seriousness, yeah, lots of cheering for productivity and compliments on your dress and chemise. Yeah, so that's really cool.
They're pretty, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I personally am being blamed for the bite marks in the sofa. I didn't do the chewing. It was the cat, I assure you.
So back to you guys' projects. And I know that I think a couple times ago, we all decided that we were going to use the hashtag Crafty Vintage Lady to show some of your cool projects with me. And so I want to give a quick shout out to Tartan Tabby 85, because she made this really cool Slytherin bullet journal layout, and I absolutely love it. So Lawrence is going to share that with you, and you should go and look at it. It's really cute. And if you would like any of your own projects featured here, hopefully at some point we'll even be able to show them on screen. But again, we're waiting on a new camera for that. So be patient, friends. It's coming. I'm doing all the research. It's just not there yet. But nevertheless, you can at least see these things in the comments for now. And I would love to get to as many of you as possible. So anytime that you have any crafts to share with me, please use the hashtag across all social media. I check them all. It's not just Instagram, even though that's what this one is this time. Hashtag Crafty Vintage Lady. And I promise you I will look at every one of them. So please share those with me. Now back to my own projects, because again, the productivity really in the last 6 weeks has only just begun, my friends, which is insane to me, by the way. Should be just as insane to you. But the next project that I embarked on was the 1 hour dress. And I know that a few of you saw my Instagram story, at least, about this. I am not super a fan of this. It is not a very flattering figure, just to start with most people. But because I have that hourglass shape, it's especially not flattering on me. So I did not post any pictures yet, but I do have a plan. And I think what I am going to do with this dress is I am going to, I don't know if you can call it a panel or a sash or what, but I'm essentially going to add an extra kind of wide panel here across in the same fabric. Might even try to match up the fabric. Probably not, let's be real. But nevertheless, I'm going to try. And then I'm going to take out, of course, all this extra fabric that has the pleats in it that I made. And I might cut that down a little bit so that it's a little bit shorter. It'll keep the pleats, don't worry. But I'll put them down even further, because what that will do is hopefully it will give the illusion of having a longer waist, because that's what I lack. I have a very short waist and a very large bust. So this is just not very flattering on me at all. The other thing that I made to go with that, and I wore under it, because I mean, that stuff's itchy, let's be real, is this very easy to make. And I've made a few of these in my lifetime, but never for me. Again, all the stuff is new to me because it's for me. I usually make things for other people. So it's been really nice to actually go through whole projects and then be able to wear them afterward. It's a new experience for me. But this is just a standard slip. And what I did is I cut it on the bias. And when you cut something on the bias, in terms of your fabric, then it automatically looks better on you. I promise you. Ask any professional costumier, anyone who makes clothes for a living, they will tell you the exact same thing. The minute that you cut something on the bias, it's just going to look at least 50% better than it was going to anyway. So I very quickly fell in love with this, decided to give myself a little kind of heart shape on the front, which is a very easy thing to do as well. And I got plans for this, my friends. Not only am I probably going to make myself a whole bunch of these, but I will probably do a sew stream live where we actually go through making an entire one of these. I'll probably already have the fabric cut out, but beyond that, our first kind of sew along live will be one of these, because I don't think it takes more than an hour or so to make. So stay tuned for that. I will let you know when that very special sew stream happens, and then you can sew your own slip with me in the future. I hope you all like that idea, because I do. I think it'll be really fun. And I'm going to make a number of those, like I said. So yeah, those are all of the projects that I have done that I wear now. But I've also done a couple of other things that are non-wearing. I made some pillowcases. So these pillows have gotten a lovely little makeover. And I made these actually just last weekend while I was still ill.
Just casually.
Yeah, I did, really.
Unbelievable.
I found my, some fabric in my stash, and I made some pillowcases. Again, didn't really use a pattern, just went for it. And then Lawrence, of course, came back from his trip and was like, what? But I think we both agree that it kind of adds a little extra. So I might, and tell me what you think about this as well. I'm thinking, because I still have a little bit of this fabric left, that I might actually make some arm covers to go along with it in the same fabric. But would that be too much? Because I know that this is already a very loud pattern. Should I make it in a different color, or should they be the same? You tell me. I would really like to know. Yeah, so really, again, if nobody ever watches another sew stream, if we don't get together on these ever again, I would say that already 6 weeks of doing this, plus being off 1 week, has been quite the success, in my opinion, because it's kept me going.
Yeah. Gee. How do you do it all?
Just do it. Nike, not sponsored, I swear. Speaking of sponsored, nothing's being sponsored here, but I have an idea for a giveaway. So I know we still haven't quite made it to 500, and don't worry, once we make it to 500 subscribers, I will absolutely do that extra bonus sew stream for you all. But moving ahead even further, Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, I already have a plan. I know what I'm giving away. So be sharing, be again using the hashtag Crafty Vintage Lady. Go and see me on socials, say hello, tell me about your projects. And when we make it to 1,000, you might actually be the person that I send my little giveaway item to. So stay tuned for that. Now, I know that there's still comments rolling in and maybe even a few questions. So Lawrence, take it away.
I will. There have been quite a few. Firstly, Peg Y did say that she saw that pattern after you talked about it and decided it wouldn't be flattering for many people, to be fair.
It's true. The 20 silhouette is a particularly unflattering silhouette. It just is.
And Tartan Tabby says, I have been Googling vintage slip patterns to make myself one. And you are such an inspiration, wife, in that regard.
Oh, great. My hope is that before we actually do my live sew along, I'll actually make a post and I'll write out all the instructions for you as well so that you can kind of go along with me. Because since this doesn't actually require a pattern, it is the easiest thing in the world to make, which means that really it's just a few steps and then you're done, right?
This is a good one. This comes from Jen Grace. Jen says, I'm not much of a sewer or seamstress, so I can use the hashtag for any crazy crafty stuff I want to share.
Yeah, Jen. I mean, again, Tartan Tabby 85, her bullet journal, beautiful stuff. I wish that I could do stuff like that. I love drawing. I actually absolutely adore it, but I just don't have time. So I'm glad that you guys are sharing me stuff that I don't have time for, because that gives me just as much inspiration. I'll be real with you.
Cassiopeia loves the sassy finger wagging. Can we see more of that? Look at that. I see that every day. And I know it to be sassy as well.
I kind of like the standing too, but it's kind of hard when I sew. So I decided to stand on this one just because I wanted to show you like as much of a full length as I could. But tell me what you think about that. I don't know.
Usually you can't stand it. Sorry about that. I'm going to carry on. Let's see. Where was I? Okay, there's a lot of conversation going on inside the comments.
Oh, great! I can't wait to read all of it later.
Yes.
While I'm, continuing to sew that apron that we'll never finish.
Shauna says, "Hi, love the pillows. Arm covers should be a shade of blue in the pillows, but not the same design." Yeah, okay. I could see that.
Yeah, I can see that too. Maybe also make them double-sided. Maybe we can switch them between blue and red or blue and cream or something.
That sounds good. That sounds like something I couldn't do. So brilliant. It's all on you. It's all on you. I'm a rectangle expert, says Tartan Tabby, and it's true.
Oh, great. Hashtag rectangles for life.
I wouldn't go that far necessarily. Let's see. Sue M asks, do you use wearing history patterns, vintage style?
You know what? I haven't yet, but just like reconstructing history, I've been a very long time lurker of their stuff. So maybe at some point I will try one out. I think that's a really good idea.
Peg asks, what is the attraction for doing period accurate sewing?
Well, first off, it's a thing right now. You're absolutely right. I only just noticed it, but I've been really into it for such a long time, since I was a kid. First off, my background is in theatrical costumes, and to be someone who does theatrical costuming, you already have to be really interested in historic dress just to start with, because some of the depending on whether you're designing or constructing, some of the requirements of those things require you to know how it was done, even if you choose not to do those things yourself. So for me, coming from that background and really loving museum interpretation, and I mean first-person interpretation, which if you want to know a lot about the difference between first, third person interpretation and any kind of historic interpretation, Townsend's. Go to Townsend's. Look interpretation up. He gives a really good overview of what the different types are. I don't know what the link is offhand, but I'll share it in the comments later. Either way, because I've done historic interpretation before, I have dressed the part and also pretended to be the part in person. And that just kind of sparked a lifelong interest for me in, what our ancestors did, really, because everyone had to sew. It was very unlikely, unless you were, a very high courtier or somebody who was literally in charge of nations, that you wouldn't sometimes make your own garments, or as a woman at least make your garments for your family. So I'm very interested in that side of history, what the female experience was from the beginning of time until now.
Cassiopeia makes a good point, and she says that I love Townsend and I watch his YouTube channel. He also does period recipes.
Yes, he does. That's how I got onto him. I didn't even know that he did any of the other stuff until later on, but those recipes, I'm a little bit hooked. Yeah. They are great YouTube videos.
Yeah, it looks like we've got quite a few Townsend fans in the house. Also, Deborah, Armstrong, and Jen Grace. I did just share the link to Townsend's for those of you not familiar with them. Sue asks, or rather says, that we should not forget about the Royal Vintage Fall shoe. Is that shoe? Yes, shoe pre-order, which is running until the 20th.
I do love a good Royal Vintage shoe. So yeah, go and check them out. I didn't know that there was a sale. Now I do. So I'm going to have to check them out as well. These shoes are from there. May as well show you since they're sitting right here. I wore them today. I even got approached by a woman today who said that these brought her back to the 50s. And then we had a discussion about how these are actually from 1928 and they're an original Spalding pattern. So Royal Vintage, check them out for sure.
Do you like, and I'm not familiar with this, do you like millinery? This is from Sue M. She talks about Judith M., specialist shop located near South Bend, Indiana. Well, it's not far from us. Would you show us any millinery? I'm not sure what that is.
Millinery is hat making, and I do like my hats. I'm sure that you've seen, at least in Halfway Planet before, that occasionally I will wear a hat. It's only just getting cold enough now that I can start justifying wearing hats regularly again to and from places. So you'll probably see more of those on me. But in terms of millinery, I don't think I've ever heard of this shop. So I'm going to have to go back in the comments and see if I can contact them. But yeah, I'm open to showing you some millinery. I've never made anything myself like that. Doesn't mean I won't in the future. Why not?
I think that's it. I think your new obsession has begun. And speaking of which, Tartan Tabby says that Townsend's may well now be her new YouTube obsession.
They are so good, seriously.
So long as they're third in line behind Tara and me, we don't mind. That's fine. All right, and so that brings us to the bottom of the comments. For now, I'm going to go back to see if we had any that I didn't get to.
Great. While you do that, what I want to mention is what I'm going to be doing next. So you saw my 1 hour dress, the unflattering piece of work that it is. And I am going to go back and make that panel. But before I do that, I mentioned, I don't know, many sew streams ago that I would like very much to be a part of the Stripey Challenge. So if you've been following me on Instagram, then you will know that I bought 2 different types of fabric. I bought the ones that you saw, or the yards that you saw of my 1 hour dress. But then I also bought this fabric. And I think that I can make a better 1 hour dress out of this fabric that's perhaps a little bit more flattering. And the reason why I say that is because I've been reading the book. Let me make sure I got the name right. Dress and Look Slender by Mary Picken. And Lawrence is going to share that with you in the comments. But that book is basically just about what it's like to be a larger lady and dressing in quite an unforgiving style, like the 20s. And I think I want to say it was written in 1927. I want to say that. I can't remember what the copyright date is on it, but I know it was in the 20s, and I feel like it was the latter half. So 1927, I hope. Nevertheless, this book is free. It's on archive.org because it's out of print. And I've been reading through it. And my hope is after I read that, then I will be able to actually design a dress. And this is my challenge to myself really in the next week or so, that meets the Stripey Challenge requirements in that it is historic dress and is done by the end of September, because that's when her Stripey Challenge ends. Carolina Zabrowska, that is. So that is my next project, and you'll want to be watching me on social media just to see the updates for that. Because my hope is that I'll be a little bit better about that in the coming days now that I'm feeling a bit better and I'm on to my next project. So I will hopefully see you there.
We did get another question coming. This is about another channel, and it sounds like one that could be of interest. This is from Jen Grace, who asks, do you all know Angela Clayton's channel? Lots of historical sewing.
Angela Clayton is fabulous. And the girl, so I've been following her for a very long time, since before she did YouTube, before she was even really on social media. She used to have, and she probably still has it, but I haven't seen it in a while because I watch her YouTube videos now and follow her on Instagram. But she used to have a personal blog when she was in her teens. And I saw her when we were still living in Indianapolis, so this was a while ago, and was just like wowed by literally everything she did. And back then, I know it's not the same now, but back then she used to make everything on like her bedroom floor. And it was still incredible and beautiful to see. So yeah, she's absolutely worth checking out. I highly endorse her.
Mandy Story says, I need to read that book. I'm a big girl and nothing fits right. I can absolutely empathize. Wait, did I say that out loud?
I can empathize for sure. And yes, here's the thing about the book. It is definitely of its period. And there are some funny little quirks in there and quips that perhaps wouldn't necessarily jive very well with an audience for today. So that is your disclaimer before you check it out. But it's probably worth a look if you want to see some kind of advanced design concepts kind of further into the text about how to slenderize, or at least to lengthen a garment and make it look like it's lengthier and more slender than it actually is.
We've got a recommendation for a book. This is from Sue M, who says, gotta read The Lost Art of Dress by Linda Pritzbazewski, a history professor at Notre Dame. Great history of vintage fashion. She does talks, some vintage stuff around Chicago, actually. Must read the book.
Great. I'll have to check it out. I don't think I've ever heard of that one before, so thank you very much for that.
Yep. And just another recommendation for Angela. This comes from Donna B, who says that she's been reading Angela's blog since the early days, and she is brilliant.
Yeah, she really is. I agree. And the way that, for me, watching her evolution has just been phenomenal. You know, watching her grow up and watching all of the beautiful creations that she continues to make, and her evolution, both of style and of her quality, has just been, it's been great. So yeah, definitely check her out.
And we have about 1 minute left, and we did rattle through a lot of comments there. Any final words tonight from you, wife?
This has been really good to be able to kind of reflect on what we've done so far, and where even I've come in such a short period of time in terms of picking all this stuff back up again after a few years. So thank you very much for hearing me out, and hopefully I'll see you next week, because I certainly don't plan on stopping this anytime soon. In the meantime, like I said, follow me on socials. Lawrence will put all those links in the comments. And I will go back into the comments section and I think link to the specific video that talks about what first person interpretation is, so that you all know what I'm talking about in terms of Townsend's and all of that jazz. So thanks again for joining me on SewStream. I will see you next week at 8 p.m. Central Time. And in the meantime, say hi to me on socials.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.